Christ.
All right.
Are you ready for leaders? Are you surrendered to authority?
Yes.
You're not surrendered. You're not ready. You're not ready.
That's all right.
You got to get ready. Surrendering to authority. Now, I know someone said, nobody's going to tell me what to do. Listen, everywhere you are,
All right.
somebody is over you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There is no place where there is nobody over you. Let me give you a few observations and then you can go home and think about it. People who are truly surrendered to authority are unashamed to say so.
All right. All right.
Here is a centurion. He's in charge of 100 soldiers and he said, I'm under authority.
Yes, sir.
If children are ashamed to say, I am under the authority of my parents, it is because they are not surrendered.
That's right. Yes, sir.
That's it.
Call it.
If wives are ashamed to say, I am under the authority of my husband, it is because you are not surrendered.
All right.
If husbands are ashamed to announce that they are under the authority of the Lord, it is because they are not surrendered.
Yes, sir.
People who are surrendered.
Yes.
Now, we do that everywhere else. We go run up to somebody and say, let me introduce you to my boss.
All right. All right.
Get excited. I want you to meet my boss.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Listen, a wife will introduce her supervisor to her husband and say, I want you to meet my boss.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Called it, sir. Called it.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Those who are ashamed
Yes, sir.
to say they are under authority are not surrendered.
All right.
Now, second observation I want to give you.
Yes, sir.
Those who would exercise authority must first surrender to authority.
Help us, Marshall.
See, the worst thing you can have is a person exercising authority who him or herself is not already surrendered to authority.
All right.
So if you will exercise authority, you must first surrender to authority.
All right.
So if you're not surrendered to authority, you have no business exercising authority.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Listen to this one. Surrendering to authority expands your capacity to exercise authority.
Yes, sir.
You learn how to exercise authority by surrendering to authority.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So surrendering to authority creates your capacity to exercise authority. Number 4, people who are surrendered to authority are more spiritual in their thinking and their behavior.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
People who are surrendered to authority are more spiritual in their thinking and their behavior. Those who are more spiritual in their thinking and their behavior, those who are surrendered to authority are more spiritual in their thinking and their behavior, both publicly and privately.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You want to be spiritual in your thinking? Surrender to authority.
All right.
Now let me show you this right in your Bible. Look right here in Luke chapter 7. Luke chapter 7. Now I want you to notice the centurion was a Gentile.
Right.
When the Jewish elders came to Jesus, they said, this man bought us, built us a synagogue.
Yes, sir.
Now the synagogue was the Jewish place of worship.
Yes, sir.
And if you were not a Jew,
Right.
you could not enter the synagogue.
Yes, sir.
Now, how many of you would pay for a church building you couldn't go in?
Come on.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Listen, when you give your $10, you think you own everything in your Listen, this man was spiritual in his thinking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Was spiritual.
He sure was.
Listen, people who are surrendered to authority are more spiritual than they're thinking.
Yes.
You want to be spiritual? Surrender to authority.
All right.
Listen, now watch this. How do you know your children are spiritual? They surrender to parental authority.
All right.
That's how your children exercise their spirituality. Because parents stand in relationship to their children as God.
Yes, sir. That's right.
So when children, when you obey your parents,
Yes,
you are being spiritual in your behavior. And that's why God said he'll reward you with quality of life.
Yes, sir. That's it.
And when members surrender to the authority in the congregation, you are being spiritual in your thinking.
All right.
Now, the day you get up and say that is nobody can tell me what to do.
All right.
And there's nobody over me. And he is just a man like I am. You are unspiritual in your thinking.
All right. Preach, Marshall.
Those who are surrendered to authority are more spiritual in their thinking. Catch it?
Called it.
Well, y'all don't like me now, do you?
Good teaching, sir.
Those who are spiritual in their thinking
Yes.
will surrender to authority.
That's it.
Now watch this. See, that's why when you go to work tomorrow, you ought not be on the job rebelling against your supervisor.
Yes, sir.
Learn to do what they ask you to do. You don't own the company. If you don't like the rules and regulations, buy the company and then change the policy. Well, until you do, follow the directions.
Yes, sir.
And then you wonder why we are not promoted.
All right.
Now watch this.
All right.
Imagine all believers.
Yes.
You are surrendered to authority. So when you go to the job, you stand up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so you are promoted and you are rewarded. Why? Because you are spiritual in your thinking and you are surrendered to authority and God is blessing you.
Yes, sir.
If you're not very careful, you'll find the believers leading the contention.
Mercy, Lord.
And then you wonder why we come to the school and the church children are in charge of the game. Because their mom and daddy leads the game at work. And the reason they lead the game at work so successfully is because they have led the game at church.
Yes, sir. Talk, Marshall.
But listen,
Yes, sir.
surrendering to authority is your exercise of faith.
All right.
Listen, exercise of faith is not picking up the Bible and reading another chapter. It's surrendering
To authority.
to authority.
Preach, sir.
Surrendering to authority is the way you consistently receive good things from God.
All right.
You want to get some good things from God? Surrender to authority.
All right.
Just read the Bible and notice the people who received good things from God were connected to someone who was surrendered to authority. Now I want you to notice the text. Don't you notice the text?
Yes, sir.
Jesus was a Jew. Now stay with me now. Stay with me. What was Jesus?
A Jew.
He was of the Jews. Now you remember in Acts chapter 10 when Cornelius, when Peter had a vision, Cornelius had a vision. Peter went down to Cornelius' house and y'all look at me like y'all look at that. All right, this adds 5 minutes to the sermon. Turn over to Acts chapter 11. Acts chapter 11. Acts chapter 11. Quickly. Acts chapter 11.
Yes, sir.
Peter went to Cornelius' house and baptized Peter and taught them, etc. Now look at verse number 1 of Acts chapter 11. Now the apostles and the brethren who were throughout Judea heard that the Gentiles also had received the word of God. And when Peter came up to Jerusalem, those who were circumcised, that's the Jewish brethren, took issue with him, saying, "You went to uncircumcised men and ate with them." Now notice what happened. Because they took issue with Peter because they heard he had gone to the house of a Gentile.